I think we'll start this webinar. My name is Marc-André Fontaine. I'm the VP of Sales and Marketing at SureWeb. I think it's the first time we're doing a webinar all in separate locations, so bear with us. I have all the panelists in the side of me, and as you all know, the world around us is changing. So the way we have to work. Most of us are IT experts in IT companies. Luckily for us, our workforce is very tech savvy and accustomed to work from home, remote, and other remote locations. Over the past few days, SureWeb has deployed tremendous effort to enable its 800 employees to work from home often with their children. As you can see, I'm from home myself with the 4 kids running around. And this setup already created multiple very funny anecdotes that I will probably share in another call. Unfortunately, this is not the case for a vast majority of small and medium businesses in North America. These businesses are counting on us to remain productive and proactive in this unprecedented situation. So this is our time to step up and help our community with remote working capacity. You are all trusted technology advisors and partners of your clients. But today is when they need us the most. You can help them by leveraging your technical knowledge, skills, and people to enable them working from remote places. What seems impossible for them may be super quick, easy for you to implement. And I'm not just talking about Teams, because everyone knows Teams. I'm talking about everything else. I'm talking about phone systems, PBXs, desktop users, remote security, training, and so on. I'm even talking about logistics, moving and deploying remote solutions. One example I have is even for us, we had to move over 100 computers from one place to home locations. So how do we move these computers overnight? So this webinar is not meant to be perfect, and I'd like to apologize if it's not perfect. This webinar is meant to be more timely. We felt the need to empower you with the right tools to help your clients succeed as soon as possible. So, so we brought a bunch of experts. Each have their own field of expertise. Our key speaker today will be Alex Laflamme. So Alex, if you just want to go on the and switch the slide. So Alex is an Office 365, Microsoft 365 expert that will drive you through all the technologies at our disposal to empower and deliver remote solutions to companies. And we will also host at the end of this presentation a super long Q&A, because everyone has specific needs. And on our QA panelists today, James Welburn. So James, can you just, yeah, James, Cloud PBX and voice expert. James Sawyer, James, great. He's a pre-sale within SureWeb, so specialized in security, remote solutions, and so on. And we have Eric Beauchamp. So Eric, great. Eric is leading our cloud infrastructure team, and he will be able to help with remote remote desktop solutions, infrastructure in the cloud, and so on. With that, Alex, the floor is yours.
Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is stop showing my screen and turn off Teams. Because even though we love Teams, it's not linked to GoToWebinar. Okay, so that should be good. So back to me, and then if my wonderful colleagues want to hide their webcams now that they've been presented, we'll be able to start. So like Marc-André says, we'd like to thank all of you. I know this is not an easy time. There's a lot of changes in the world. There's a lot of fear going around, and there's a lot of your clients that are asking you for solutions. They're asking you like, how do we deal with this? How do we shift our workforce to remote working? What are our capabilities? So hopefully today, with the webinar, the solutions that we'll show you, you'll be able to drive conversations with them, reassure them. So here we go. Let's see here. So yeah, there's not much of an agenda today. It's really about what the opportunities are and a very, very long Q&A. Okay, the webinar is going to be divided into 6 steps. The first one is going to be the easiest way, how you can reach the most your clients, the different companies that you have. And then each step is going to be a bit more involved, or of how things you can do to make it not only able to work from home, but to work from anywhere, and to make sure you're not sacrificing any security or anything like that. The first and easiest way to communicate nowadays is through Teams. You have just today the amount of users on Teams has just surpassed 44 million users. And I believe it was just last year that Microsoft was very proud to say that it had reached 13 million users. So everyone is, talking about, everyone wants to have ways to talk with each other. And one thing that's going to be very important with all the quarantines, isolations, and things like that, it's not, email isn't going to be enough. Phone calls aren't going to be enough. You're going to have to see people, like hello. And this is going to be a very stabilizing factor for both you with your employees and your clients. Whenever you want to reach out to them, whenever they see you, it's going to be very reassuring to know that you still exist, you're still out there. People right now are feeling isolated. So it'll be very, very, it'll have an immediate impact. Just earlier this week, Marc-André held a Teams meeting for our whole company, our whole sales department, excuse me, and just seeing these people after about a week of working from home was just so nice. Even people I usually can't stand, I was just very, very happy to see them. And it's been quite an experience. So we do strongly encourage you to try to go that way, to make sure that you have as many visuals with people as possible. We're going to be providing you with like links and documentation after the webinar as well, to see how you can get started with Teams. But it's very, very easy. If most of the time your clients, if they're purchasing Office 365, they're already going to have Teams. They're just not been using it. So we're going to be giving you, just those documentation to show them, how it's super easy to set up a Teams meeting. And then once you have that meeting, even people that are not on Office 365 are going to be able to join those meetings. So you're going to be able to reach out to clients and have them see you, and just them being able to see how easy it is to talk to you without having any other type of setup. They're going to be very, very happy and very inquisitive as to how they can get that going. The way Teams has been set up, it's like a sliding, adoption rate. And you have the easy things like, chats, Teams, channels, things to set up, certain apps that you may want to give them access to directly in Teams. Then afterwards, you want to, again, like set up the meetings and conferences. And then eventually you'll want to see what the options are for voice as well, so that you can have not only like the calling within your company, but you can kind of replace your whole phone system with just having Teams and video for everyone. Oh, sorry. Clicking here. Oh, no, I want to go back. Yep. The second thing that's very easy to do, and that's one thing that we've been doing for many years at ShareWeb, is to use remote desktop services, RDS services. And this is a way to be able to have, instead of your on-premise server, on-premise infrastructure, to have it in the cloud, so that your users, whether they're logging in from the office or from home, they'll be logging into the cloud, and they'll be able to have that same experience, all across all the different places that they would want to log in from. It's a bit like email was at the beginning for everyone. Whenever they say, "Oh, well, I'm getting this email on this computer, but if I go to this other computer, how do they know that I've answered?" It's the same type of system where you have the central data in the cloud. We again have a lot of experience on that. It's just if your clients have on-premise server, on-premise infrastructure, this may be a project that they'll want to be able to start as soon as possible to be able to function as best as possible as soon as possible. Mm. One way to connect remotely as well is through VPN. A lot of that is popular, like because of Netflix and other streaming services. But this, and again, we'll be sharing that deck as well with you with all the notes that I'm not reading properly. And this is a way to be able to set up a lot of different services within one container. So I thought this image was very good to represent that, because if you weren't using a VPN, you would potentially be exposing, certain security sensitive data or communications, to the web. And whenever you have other services, other software and things like that, it is important to contact your provider to see if they have options for VPN connectivity, see if you can, reach directly that service remotely as well. Yeah. So far, so good. It's also very strange to be talking to myself all this time. Um, One thing that's important as well is whenever you are trying to stay connected with your clients, is to be able to understand what their reality is. Not all clients have the same needs, and this kind of new paradigm is going to force you to have these conversations with them and kind of ask questions that you weren't asking before. As it do all your workers have internet connections? Do they have needs for bridges? Is there certain things like, well, they're going to be using their cell phones from home? Is there a reason that they would potentially want to hide their cell phone number from the clients that they're calling, and instead use the company phone number, and a lot of things like that? So whenever you're going to want to talk about communications with your clients, it's going to be important to talk about the internal communications, the communications with outside clients, and again, like how that's going to look, you know. Mm. We also have based on the Teams platform, like I said before, as far as the evolution, you have certain options as well, like unified communications. We call it UCaaS, and this is when you're integrating a PBX solution within Teams. There are certain features from Microsoft, that you can purchase directly, into the Teams client to make it kind of work. But in a time like this, where a lot of people are crunched for time and are trying to deal with so many things at once, we feel that it's best if you reach out to us to see what we can do for you on that, because we do have a lot of support for you, a lot of onboarding. We take care of porting numbers and things like that for you. We'll set up all the IVRs and things of that nature for you as well. And we do want to make sure it's the right fit for you. So we do have, other options as well. Whether you just want to set up the cloud PBX for your clients, that instead of their, traditional phone service, or if you want to just connect the on-prem PBX that they have that you've already, set up for them, but directly with Teams as well. These are all things that we can do. Obviously, it's a wide variety of questions that can bring that with it, which is why it was very important to have the other panelists on here, because I'm, as much as I try to know as much about Cloud PBX as I can, I know that I don't know everything, and I'm very, very glad to have these people on board, because they're going to be able to answer the questions that I won't be able to. The next one that's that's gaining ground because you might have heard of it already, Windows Virtual Desktop. It's been in preview for quite some time, but now is really just starting to become, more and more deployed. And since the situation is very fluid with all these changes going on, Microsoft is working around the clock to provide more and more features, especially on the management side of Windows Virtual Desktop. What it does is that it takes a lot of the steps for creating a virtual environment, much like RDS does for us and for other clients. It kind of simplifies the whole thing and unifies the experience for the end users. Setting it up yourself is not super easy. It does have a lot of steps, but we will be sharing the demo videos from Microsoft that show you, all the steps to be able to first create the host pool with the images of your Azure machines for your the VHDs, the Windows files for your users, and then after that you're able to have multi-session windows so that the experience for the user is exactly the same as if they were on their regular Windows 10 desktop. And this is true for both, a PC at home, a laptop, an iPad, and even a Mac type device. So it's the holy grail for Mac users to have the true Windows 10 experience without having to purchase a PC. Mhm. Um, there's one thing as well. Whenever I was preparing for this, that really hit home for the Windows Virtual Desktop is the multimedia redirection capability. Because for anyone that has been using RDS services in the past, you know that whenever you're running either, trying to watch YouTube or any other type of streaming service within the remote desktop experience, it's not optimal. There's a lot of lag. There's a lot of sometimes like the sound is mismatched with the images. So Windows Virtual Desktop solves that issue because it redirects since it knows all of your devices that the services that are connected to your computer. It knows how to redirect um, the multimedia that's streaming to make sure that you're getting low latency and that there's no mismatch within the within the sound and the image, which is very annoying when you get that. The Windows Virtual Desktop, the licensing, which would be like, the CALs and things like that, they're all included in the M365 bundles. Right now, it's the only way you can get Windows Virtual Desktop. So if you have clients that are normally on Office 365, but they want to have the Windows Virtual Desktop experience, we'll want to switch them to M365. Again, you know, not going to go into many details right here, right now, but do reach out to your account manager, your rep, and they'll be able to give you the information, or get me on the line with you so that I can give you the more detailed information. One other thing that's very important when it comes to Windows Virtual Desktop is the fact that there are third parties, and the one we like the most is Nerdio, who make this actually a lot simpler. I know that a couple of minutes ago, I mentioned that, with Windows Virtual Desktop, we'll give you the guides. You'll see all the different steps, first to plan, then deploy, then to optimize. So you can do it all yourself, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of steps. Nerdio makes it like a 3-click situation to accomplish exactly the same thing. I myself first didn't believe it. I had to have the guy from Nerdio show it to me because it really felt like magic. Like it really was just doing everything in the background. So again, in a time like this, to have shortcuts, to have faster deployments, this is something that you'll probably want to at least have a very good look at, and especially with the different promotions and different services that are coming live every day. Just at 4 a.m. this morning, Dwayne, one of our friends from marketing, sent us an email, forwarded us an email from Microsoft that talks about a new Windows Virtual Desktop service or promotion that's coming very shortly. We're still trying to get the details, so we don't want to, stick our foot in our mouth. But it seems that it's again um, with that same goal of really trying to help people being able to set up in the cloud as fast as possible so they can have some sense of business continuity. So, please do look that up after the webinar. Of course, whenever you are going to the cloud and trying to do the right things for your clients, they're going to be pressuring you. They're going to say, you need to do this fast, you need to do this now. And the one thing that all IT people know is that even if you're executing what your client wants at the speed that he wants, if anything happens after, you will be the one to blame. And it's not going to be their fault because they didn't know. So the major thing, and again, we do feel that the whole world is, in the same boat, trying to, get through this crisis. But there are certain people out there that don't have the best intents out there. So you want to make sure that you're not sacrificing security. One of the things about Teams is that it's not like other platforms that have been built first for the consumer market and then they try to make it for the commercial market. It's been built for enterprises. It's been built with the security, with compliance, with everything that you can think of, in the background to make it work. There's some great videos out there from Microsoft. Again, they've been pumping out videos on YouTube, like I think every couple hours, showing the different capabilities of Teams. So if you have some clients that are in certain verticals that do require compliance, you don't have to be worried about Teams, kind of creating security risks. The traditional approach to security was some of you may be familiar with the castle analogy, where you want to have everything inside and then your barriers outside. Well, as we all know, with the distributed workforce model that we have to have now, it's no longer possible. We have to be a bunch of mini castles ourselves. So when Microsoft created Teams, they had the infrastructure in mind. The permission policy is the zero trust model, meaning that no one has access by default. you know. So this is a great way to prevent any type of unforeseen hacks, unforeseen attacks from hackers and other bad actors, because you have to give permission, like specifically to a user, an admin for a certain service before they have access to it. Again, the videos from Microsoft can explain it a lot better than I can, but it's my main point is just to make sure that you understand that going to Teams, you're not going to sacrifice security for this. One other thing that's going to be important with the security aspect is education. Because a lot of users are used to work from the office, and all the security features, everything, they're kind of like in a bubble, if you will. They're protected from themselves. But when they have home networks, home routers, no firewall and things like that, it's going to be important to educate them. You can't go in person, well, I mean, maybe in some states you still can, but at least here, we're unable to like show up in person. So one way that's been, working for us, and that's very good, is a service called Quick Help, and other type of online learning services. We do recommend those very much. First, it's going to be able to make sure that your users, or your clients' users, are educated. It does give you a tracking of what they've been doing, just to make sure that they are learning what they're supposed to learn. And of course, you'll be able to add more content, add even like daily videos, things like that, just to cheer them up. It's going to be it's a great tool that we've used already in the last week, for things that we didn't know we were going to use it for before. On top of that, you also have, again, on the security, I mean, it sounds strange a bit to say education is part of security, but it really is. Even in real life, if people are educated about this crisis, we'll do a lot better. One thing that we also, again, because we're talking about, speed over perfection, you don't want to put your clients at risk. There's a lot of security controls within Office 365 that you can set up manually, but it's a lot of things to set up manually. And right now, you may not have the type of time available to click on all the different features at once. So we do have options for you. Office Protect is a great one because not only will you be able to click once and change 11 to 30 to 40 different policies and things, very simply, but it will give you alerts and reports. And with people working from home a lot, these alerts and reports are going to be crucial. First, for your clients, to understand that, what you're doing for them, how the service is protecting them. And of course, again, if there's any type of unauthorized access or security breaches, you'll be able to see it right away and enact on it right away. Um, there's also other services, from Microsoft, especially built into M365 or offered as add-ons on Office 365. The main one is called Intune. You've all heard of it before. It's going away. It's going to be called the Microsoft Endpoint Manager now. Intune's going away, but that's normal. That's what Microsoft does all the time. But for Intune, it's for the management for mobile devices, it's going to be very, very important. Again, you don't want that to be the weakest security link of your clients. And through Intune, you're able to manage all of that. You're able to manage their PCs, their Macs, their Android devices, their iPhones. And there's a lot of things that, again, you'll be able to see in a lot of little videos that are very well done from Microsoft. But it's really to put you and your clients at risk as far as security, because a lot of business owners have been very reluctant to let their employees either bring their own devices to work or use their own devices when they were been trying to work remotely. This solves that. It allows them to use their own devices, but it allows you to have control over what they're doing with enterprise data. And if they were to lose their cell phone or things like that, you can remote wipe everything to make sure that no data is lost. Speaking of data being lost, there's also a thing that's important and that's not going away. Is that famous buzzword of last year, ransomware. There are, very important security aspects of ransomware, and one thing that just cannot be worked around, there's no shortcut for this, is the fact that to be able to be truly protected from ransomware, it has to be a completely separate service. It cannot be all in the same service. Of course, Office 365 has internal backups. Of course, there's archiving, there's DLP and things like that. But if your environment was to be compromised, the only way to make sure that you can recuperate anything, it has to be from something completely separate. And the online backup service that we offer through Acronis accomplishes just that. There's other online backup services out there, so make sure that if you already are using another provider, that's part of the conversation as well. Because even though again right now everyone's on the same side and everybody's in it together, there's some people out there that are just looking for an opportunity to be very, very, very bad. Um, and then here, again, this is the strangest experience. I feel like I'm just talking to myself, and there's actually no one here. It's very strange. Um, the
I'm here. So you're doing a good job, Alex. Been been
I went
listening
fast, huh?
the whole presentation, and can't wait to ask you questions. So I'll
Okay.
let you finish.
Yeah, and by the way, if anyone's saying like we did not plan the short thing, that's not me trying to emulate my boss or anything like that. But so this is the last slide, which is the redundancy, and this is when you want to go kind of like the full Monty on being completely in the cloud. And we have solutions from SureWeb that offer the the full experience, so that you will no longer have anything in the office. You can switch to just thin clients for your users, and everything's going to be on the cloud. We have it again both through SureWeb, and the way we have it set up. And I mean, I don't want to talk about disasters since we're living one, but we do have N+2 redundancy in our data centers, and we do have high availability available as well. And it does also come with online backups and things like that. And of course, we can't um, ignore Azure. It's just growing and growing and growing. So if you have if you have needs to go into Azure, we are, one of the best companies out there to advise you on how to do it, and especially with if you're not going to want to go full-blown Azure and you're going to be wanting to go, like a hybrid deployment, just certain things, and to try to learn how these can work together, and again, to make sure that the security is never sacrificed for this new um, this new um, this new way of working for people. Azure again has been built with the enterprise market in mind. So you're going to have the best services out there. We're also going to hold this type of webinar again next week, and we're going to be holding other just Q&A sessions for our partners, because again, we just want to be there for our partners, and we want to help in any way we can, even if we kind of look a little bit rough around the edges, trying to get this done. So I'll invite my fellow attendees to re-show their webcams, so I can feel slightly less like Tom Hanks on a island. Yes.
I'm here and I've always been here, Alex. I want you to know that.
Thank you, sir. So this is the part for questions and answer. I think Jeremy, who's not shown on the screen, was going to be handling that. Is that still true?
I can absolutely do that.
All right.
Okay, so the first question that we have here, how does SureWeb VoIP solution interacts with Microsoft Teams? Can they complement each other?
Of course they can. I'm going to let James Welburn answer this question, but don't take more than 5 minutes.
Well, never mind then. No, thanks so much. It's a great question. So essentially how that would work is that since we have our flagship, our Cloud PBX product, essentially what it would be is that Microsoft Teams would actually be the endpoint. So as opposed to having the desk on the phone or even working alongside the desk on your phone, you'd be able to actually use Teams as the everyday center for your hub for communications, whether it be internal by chat, or as Alex mentioned earlier, hosting video conferencing or even using Teams as your phone system. So essentially, ShareWeb would actually route the calls to our PBX. We handle all the IVRs, we handle everything that is call management, and Teams essentially is really just an endpoint for you.
Okay. I've been deploying Microsoft Teams Room system for SureWeb. Can SureWeb help deploy these as well as general Microsoft Teams?
So for the moment, it's not something that we help with for when it comes to on-site deployments. Definitely feel free to leverage myself, James, or any other member of our staff here. We can definitely provide some best practices, maybe some guidance along the way definitely from a pre-sales perspective. But generally speaking, though, when it comes to on-site deployments, we will definitely lean on our partners like you. But definitely feel free to bounce some ideas off of us, and we'll make sure you provide the right solution for your customers.
So we have another one by Dan Saint Hilaire asking, can Teams live meeting replace GTW?
James, I don't know if you want to take that one. From my understanding, it's something that Teams is working on. We can definitely host some very large meetings on Teams, as we do all the time at ShareWeb internally, but nothing to directly compete with a GoToWebinar, for example.
Thank you. So Drew Davis is asking, what license do you need for Windows Virtual Desktop?
You need I'll take that one. You need the M365 suite. So either M365 Business, E3 or E5 will have what used to be called, the RDS, like the CALs, and all the other little services that go into creating a remote experience. And again, we'll be able to send you like a nice little video from Microsoft after this webinar that shows exactly how they've built it. And I think Mr. Saria wants to say something. You'll have to unmute yourself, sir.
So we have another one.
Yeah, there's also the
What-
Windows 10 standalone SKUs that will work for WVD as well.
So Joanne Nin is asking, what about the Windows VM specs, RAM, gigs?
Again,
Well, you
those
have
are
it. Oh, go
I'll
ahead.
let you go ahead.
Okay, I'll start with the, well, by default, whenever you are building your Windows Virtual Desktop experience, you'll go through the Azure portal and they'll give you some templates, some pre-built machines that you can choose. You can choose to customize them just like you would VMs like normally in Azure, but we do recommend to start with the basic default images just to kind of have that blueprint of what works for you, and then afterwards you optimize the resources for how people are using them.
And that's one of the things that Nerdio helps out with too. When you're using their interface, you can plug in the statistics of how many users, what you need for pool resources, things like that, and it will actually suggest templates that work for your workload. And you can start with that as a starting point. And if you need to make any modifications afterwards, you can log back in, and it's just as easy as restarting a machine to change a template.
Yeah, we can't stress this enough how easy Nerdio makes it.
Yeah. So James and Michael, maybe the next questions are for you, but I'd like you to walk me through real life scenarios. Meaning, I've heard of, for example, an insurance company who has a couple of desktop users basically answering the phone with a traditional PBX. So what can this company do to make sure that these agents are enabled at home on a phone system point of view?
So when it comes to preparation, I mean, it's a fantastic question because at the end of the day, that's a very real life scenario right now, right? So what we always like to do is when we transition workers, especially workers that are in a call center, so usually the first point of contact in customer experience is to do a very simple network test. So step number one for any deployment is to verify what's going on. Do they have the minimum thresholds? Especially if you have, for instance, workers that don't typically have high-speed connections, so they're operating at less than 10 megabytes per sec, you might encounter some VoIP issues, some issues with connectivity, some issues with the current networking. So we always advise doing a soft deployment first. So that's where we initiate with the soft test. There's lots of great network testing tools you can download for free, even on a 7-day trial. You do this locally on any machine you'd like, and then you're able to just do the first part, which is the inspection. The second part is verifying. Let's say they have traditional PBX, whether or not that PBX can be thrown up in the cloud quickly, or the second point is to see if it's possible for you to remotely connect back to the PBX by deploying the phones in someone's house instead of having them all in the office, because in some cases that is possible with on-prem PBX. And then the third stage, which of course is the most uncomfortable one, is if their connections aren't great, we need to upgrade them. And now let's say the PBX isn't possible to relocate, then we need to start looking at cloud options as well too. The good news is that it's never been easier to port your numbers over. If you start early and you start now, it's possible for you to make that change, but you'd have to begin relatively quickly, right? So making sure that you have all the bills, all the invoices, gather your paperwork, make sure it's all together. Because you want to be able to give everything to your incumbent provider, whoever you choose, so they can make that transition as quick as possible, right? Because right now is the time to activate. And you need to start thinking about those three things. Do I have the correct setup? Do people have the right tools at their home to have VoIP work? And lastly, do I have the ability to gather all the paperwork and quickly make that transition in an emergency? So hopefully you're able to do all three of those things.
Yeah. So I know I asked this question because like the voice portion of an office is usually the more dark bugs that we're facing. So I just want to let everyone know that Michael, James, and we have almost 10 people able to assess and help you deploy cloud solutions on the voice side. Maybe the other question I have on the voice aspect is Teams connectors. So usually you're using your desktop phone to make outbound calls. So what are the options if someone is no longer able to access this device but have to make outbound calls from Teams?
So we're talking about a hypothetical situation where somebody, again, has access to Teams separately, but then doesn't have access to their on-prem PBX?
Yes.
Cool. So there's kind of two ways you can go about doing it. So you can use a UCaaS connector. So for instance, there's many players, including ourselves, that have the ability to remotely deploy a piece of middleware that'll as sort of like a bridge between two different systems. Another option is that you can also go directly with Microsoft as well too. So for example, by changing your licensing, adding phone plan or adding client plan, or depending on where you are, if you're in the US and Canada and Teams Business Voice is rolled out or not, you have the ability to basically decide one of two things. Either you could turn your entire team solution overnight into UCaaS solution using temporary numbers. That's completely possible. Sure, we can do that. We can forward off your old existing number into UCaaS right away, keep that continuity, and recreate basically what would be a ad hoc phone system. It wouldn't be perfect necessarily, but you'd be able to be up and running in a matter of hours. So that's something that you could do. Another option is to, again, by the licensing directly from us or from Microsoft or anywhere else you might be getting it, you can then go in and craft yourself a phone system, right? So Teams, if you currently have it deployed, we then added DID for everybody so they can do outbound calls. We could add conference bridge calling so people would then be able to connect back to a conference bridge. There's a plethora of options. That's why it's really important to figure out what works best for that business. Because again, conference bridging works great if you're a sales organization, but in that more pharmaceutical point of view we're looking at, or insurance company that's taking calls, that solution won't fit nearly as well. You might need to do something slightly different.
Thanks.
Oh,
Just last, it's not really a question, it's more a comment. A lot of our current employees do have like super powerful computers, desktop that has to have access to secured data centers or servers. Instead of deploying a VPN, we leverage remote desktop gateways. So this is something also a technology that you should look at in terms of enabling companies to work remotely if they have CAD requirements or that are heavy users. So VPNs can be super tricky to deploy, but we've been super successful with a remote desktop gateway. So I don't know if anyone had an experience with that on the panel, or if not, we'll just go through the rest of the questions.
But there is a for VPNs. That's one thing that's important to mention, is the fact that whenever you're choosing a VPN solution, you may want to run some tests with it before deploying your full workload for it, because traditionally VPN solutions were built in mind. Yeah, it's for an organization of 400 users, but only 20 of them are going to be using it at once, whereas now 380 of them will be using it at once. So you want to make sure that you're doing those assessments as well.
So the next question is Robert Clayton asking, can Teams be integrated into local Avaya PBX?
Yep. So there's absolutely a way to do that. It would generally require additional equipment. So maybe something like a SIP gateway to act as an intermediary. If it's an Avaya IP PBX, then generally speaking, we should be pretty good to go on that front. Definitely some little things to consider. So maybe we could take a little bit more detail offline if you'd like to get in touch with your account rep, who will definitely leverage one of the resources you see on the screen. But as a short answer, yes, it is possible.
Perfect. The next one is, and how the local printers work with the Windows remote desktop.
For remote desktop services, that one I'll definitely defer to Sario or Eric, because I have no idea. But for Windows Virtual Desktop, the Azure solution, if you want, we can include again like more documentation. Microsoft just came out with it about a week ago, of how they're making your local printer, which is the printer in your home, work with your organizational network without, again, sacrificing any type of security.
Okay.
But yeah, but James Sawyer, with the most powerful computer in the room, I saw you smile. You should answer the RDS part.
Well, I mean, me personally, I use less RDS because of the power that I have. I'm usually leveraging my own machine for a lot of the stuff that I have to do, and use things like SharePoint and OneDrive to keep my documents and whatnot secure. From a printing perspective, when you set up RDS, you can configure certain settings, like being able to drag and drop or copy paste things, and also allow it to discover your local network and printers and such, so that you can print directly from that network as well. If Eric has anything else to add.
Just say hi, Eric, something.
Yeah, sorry. Yes, so no, I think that's a good description. And in fact, when you need new services like this, you work with our sales team. In the CIS department, we have architects that will map out a diagram of the solution, and that would include how to set up the printers with this solution.
The next question, is Windows Virtual Desktop included in O365 Essential?
Not yet. That's the only answer we can give from a Microsoft standpoint. Because if you think about Office 365 and M365, think of it like a river, like a big stream. The current is moving in one direction. We don't know when everything will just be one solution, but it's definitely going to the sea and that one big ocean eventually. So if you are considering it, it's a lot better to swim with the current, in the same direction that the river is going, than against it. So if you are on the fence for, any type of Windows Virtual Desktop, but kind of considering it, you think it might be a fit, I would say try it out, test it, because it's likely going to be, if not today, tomorrow, 6 months from now, a year from now, something that's just going to be essential for everyone.
Yeah, a main component of the Windows Virtual Desktop is the actual Windows license. So that's why it's only really included with the business plans or the enterprise, I should say the Microsoft 365 business or Microsoft 365 enterprise plans, or that standalone Windows 10 enterprise license. Those are the only real ways to leverage it, because instead of RDS cows like you're used to, you actually need to have the user be licensed for the Windows machine itself. Even though it's virtual, it still needs to be licensed with Windows.
So next question, regarding on-premise to Windows Virtual Desktop migration, 2 questions. First one, is the migration complete, virtualizing existing PC into a WVD VM so that it has all the same software, etc., installed, or it's the WVD device, a new PC?
I'll start, but I'll likely let other people add more to this answer. By default, you can either choose a basic image, Windows 10 or Windows 10 with Pro Plus installed for Windows Virtual Desktop, and then once the user starts to add, data and applications into his own image, it's saved as a UHD file, if I'm getting the acronym right, on Azure, so that anytime that they re-log in, they'll be able to access that same desktop. If they saved a notepad or a picture or something, they'll see that the next time that they log in. You can also as well create your custom images, so you can kind of make sure that whenever it kind of works with Windows Autopilot, if you're familiar with that, on how you can create an image of what you want, policies, applications, permissions already set whenever they're going to be logging in. But the thing that I think he may be asking is, if someone is currently using a desktop at work, whenever they want to load into Windows Virtual Desktop, will they have all of a sudden, everything that they had on their desktop in the image? No, they'll have to actually, migrate that, upload that, or send a Raven or something.
Yeah.
But, go ahead.
And just to complete on this, so it's really recommended to install a brand new one, and then you install your software in that client session, and then it will be available everywhere. But it's not actually taking your on-prem desktop and then moving that per se and WVD. Yeah. We recommend installing from scratch. Yeah.
And the second part of the question is, are there any packages available to move from on-prem to WVD?
So in terms of packages to move, right now it's not the case. Let's say you have a file server, you would need to recreate it to be compatible with WVD, but a tool like Nerdio will help you migrate the files though from the file server on-prem to the new environment. But we don't have per se an existing package. I would say Nerdio is the best tool in terms of getting it ready quickly and more easily than manual step-by-step.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be case by case as well, and that's what we try to bring to the table all the time, is that we don't have cookie cutter solutions. You're not a number. You are our partners. We want to talk to you. We want to talk about the specific situation of your client, and maybe sometimes even challenge you on certain solutions that you want to propose to them and give you alternative paths and other ways to achieve their goals.
And we have a final question here. How can SureWeb help us support our clients for remote working? I think this one is interesting. And we could probably attack this one with each product line individually. So how can SureWeb support our clients for remote working?
So on the Teams part, again, we've adopted Office 365 a long time ago, so we're very familiar with all the different ways you can use Office 365. We also have quick help for education, to help your users be able to learn themselves. I'm sure they have a lot of downtime right now, so they can't watch those little videos. There's just so many cats playing the piano that you can watch in a row, and they'll be able to kind of learn how to do those things. And if they have issues, we do have 24/7 tech support, depending on which model that your partnership is with ShowUp. Either they're going to be calling us directly, or you will be reaching out to us if you have issues. And again, we're going to be putting out a lot of content, and Microsoft is putting out a lot of content as well on how to use Teams in this brave new world. And then the puck goes to Wellburn.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, so definitely from a communication standpoint, so definitely building on the team's momentum and everything that Microsoft has done in that regard. Definitely taking your clients from maybe their on-prem solution or maybe a less flexible hosted solution they may be currently using, and enabling them with tools like a mobile application, for example. For better or worse, work follows me everywhere I go now. So really, it's transparent for my customers. As you call into the IVRs, there's really nothing that is really that would give your position away, let's say. So you can all be remote, like ShareWeb, right? We're 800 employees scattered across the province, and even North America, I'd imagine to some extent. But for when you call into ShareWeb and you want to reach any of us, it really is transparent. It's regardless of where we are, our work continues. We continue to support you as your customers, as you do for them, and as they'll do for their customers as well. So yeah, just making sure the communications keep flowing, making sure they keep getting connected. They can provide the service that they need to keep their businesses alive. And again, it's by working with Michael, myself, with Alex, with anyone here. We'll guide you through what would be the best way to go about it. And as Alex mentioned, definitely sharing some best practices. And definitely there's a ton of potential. Not to sound opportunistic this time here, but it's definitely a time that we can actually provide a great service to keep everyone keep moving forward, keeping people busy. Obviously, keep your mind and your eyes off the news a little bit there.
Yeah, and as you're saying, one of the differentiators from us is that we were always talking about our very human approach. So again, like in one way that we can support our partners is that the type of relationships that we have with our partners is they can call us, like we see the news, we see when they talk about a certain state or anything happening, like right away I'm thinking of certain partners, certain people, and whenever you're going to be reaching out to us and talking to us, you're going to feel that right away, like how we want to help you, we want to ask you how you're feeling, how you're dealing through this, and we're going to be able to help you pass that empathy to your clients, because we want to make sure that everyone is connected and talking and not feeling isolated and alone. There's been a lot of documentation and articles recently in the last week about this, with all the quarantines and isolations, whenever it's self-imposed, like Mr. Sawyer, who, never leaves the house, it's fine. But whenever you're forced into that situation and are not used to it, it can feel, a little bit disorienting. I don't know if a lot of people remember the miners in South America that were stuck in the cave for weeks. They were able to get water and air and food, but the major concern was, the isolation, how they were going to be able to deal with that psychologically. So we're aware of this, so we want to make sure that you're aware of this and you're talking to your clients and you're making them, have some sense of normalcy throughout this unprecedented time.
And if I may speak for infrastructure, so how we can help you with this is really, let's say it's your first setup for RDS or for Azure WVD. You'll really get help for setting up your architecture. What are the best practices? Because our pre-sales team has been doing this days after day, you know, really drawing up the best setups to optimize your resources. So you'll get help on that front. And once it's running too, you can opt to have the NOC services, so for our partner services. So let's say you want these new machines to stay top shape and get all the alerts, the patching done for you. You receive the alerts. You can opt for this. You could opt for a NOC plan where we do remediation of some of them on your behalf as well. So either to save time on other issues you're taking care of now, or because if it's new types of setups for you, we'll help with that.
From a productivity standpoint as well, we're also here to help you make the right decisions for the office suite. What kind of plans you need to do the things that you want, the security options that you're going to have in place to ensure that data doesn't get lost, data gets protected, even changing from certain ways you're used to doing things. Maybe you're used to a file server and it can move more to OneDrive and SharePoint as an alternative, which is included in the packages that they're already paying for. You know, by simplifying a few things with software as a service, so you can focus on the bigger projects within infrastructure.
Thank you. So we received another question from Michael. How are applications that are graphically driving or database drive handled in WVD, such as medical or dental EMR and peripheral like medical cameras?
Yeah, I'm not touching that one.
I'll pass the buck to Eric on that.
Yeah, so I think this would truly be our Azure specialist in a pre-sales team like Michel, not on call today, but in terms of the GPU machines required for this, Azure has been really offering more and more high-profile machines to support the heaviest workloads. I would assume some of them already fit this, but what I suggest is get in touch with us and we'll connect you with the solutions architect who can confirm exactly which machine would fit that.
And our final question, I believe, goes to Marc-André Fontaine. So from a marketing and sales standpoint, any tips on how to approach this situation as a partner?
Yes and no, because it is not the time to create a marketing play, or it is the time to be close to your clients. It's not time to create like a buzz out of this, or it's not an opportunity per se. We have to make sure that we are close to our clients, close to our partners, and helping us and giving the support, sharing our knowledge, and this is what we're trying to achieve here. So one tip, and it's not a tip, it's even a requirement. So one thing I require everyone to do is calling your clients, making sure they are okay with this situation. Unfortunately, a lot of small businesses will probably go south, or will have a lot of problems in the next few months. And as soon as we can get them up and running, the better chance they have to pass through these troubling moments. So I think it's not a sales or a marketing play; it's more a human play. And call your clients. Make sure you share your knowledge, you share your expertise.
I think that's one thing that we need to keep in mind too in this whole isolation thing is with the tools that we offer, they don't have to feel alone. They don't have to feel helpless. We can have meetings like this. We can connect with one another and stay connected even in a difficult time like this.
Yeah. Yes. So thank you very much, everyone. I think this has been a terrific first webinar on that subject. We'll have other chances to meet and to answer any questions. In the meantime, I think there's two things that you have to do. First, call your account managers, call us, call our pre-sales team if you need help with a non-standard scenario within one of your clients. And second, please call your clients. Make sure they are okay with this new situation. I'm sure you'll be astonished on how many end user don't have a computer at home. So find ways to give computers or laptops or loan these kind of equipment to remote workers. So so these are the two things I'd like you to do. And on our side, we're preparing one-pagers, checklists, and more tools to empower you and the clients to work from home. So with that, I'd like to thank the panel, Jeremy, and the team to put that in to put that in place in that short notice.
Thank you, everyone.
Merci. Thank you.
Thanks, all.